Part D, evaluate 5 corporate governance considerations by a company prior to listing in the Securities Exchange. Evaluate 5 corporate governance considerations. Corporate governance considerations by a company prior to listing the Securities Exchange. Prior to listing in the Securities Exchange. Now, the first consideration, corporate governance consideration, is board composition and independence. The second one is financial transparency and reporting. The third consideration is risk management and internal controls. The fourth one is shareholder rights and protection. And lastly, ethical standards and code of conduct. Ethical standards and code of conduct. So those are 5 considerations by a company prior to listing in the Securities Exchange. Board composition and independence, number 1. Board composition and independence. The company needs to ensure that its board of directors comprise a suitable mix of independent directors who can provide objective oversight and safeguard the interests of shareholders. And that includes considering their qualifications, their experiences, considering diversity, and also considering independence criteria as per applicable regulations. Because when listing at the Securities Exchange, then the company seeks funding from the members of the public, and there are regulations in as far as corporate governance are concerned, where the company should ensure that it has a suitable mix of independent directors, not just the executive directors. There ought to be a mix of both executive and the independent directors. Independent directors are directors who provide objective oversight. These are directors who safeguard the interests of the public, the interests of the shareholders. So when listing at the Securities Exchange, the company should consider board composition and independence. Number 2, financial transparency and reporting. Financial transparency and reporting is also another matter, corporate governance matter, that the company should consider prior to listing in the Securities Exchange. The company must establish robust financial reporting practices and ensure transparency in its financial disclosures. And that involves adhering to the accounting standards, conducting regular audits, and providing timely and accurate financial information to shareholders and to the regulatory authorities. Financial transparency and reporting must be considered. Three, risk management and internal controls. Risk management and internal controls. Effective corporate governance requires the establishment of robust risk management frameworks and internal control systems. So the company needs to identify and manage potential risks, implement control mechanisms, and regularly assess and report on the effectiveness of such measures, risk management, and internal controls. Why? Because when listing at the Securities Exchange, the company seeks to get funding from the members of the public. So to protect the interests of the shareholders, then the company must ensure that there are robust risk management and internal controls. Do you understand? Yes. Number 4, the fourth corporate governance consideration is in relation to shareholders, the shareholder rights and protection. The rights of the shareholders and protection of shareholders. The company should have mechanisms to protect the rights of shareholders, including the right to vote, the right to receive timely information, and the right to participate in decision-making processes. And that may involve establishing procedures for general meetings, procedures for proxy voting, and ensuring fair treatment of all shareholders, including the minority shareholders, all shareholders. That is point number 4. Point number 5 is ethical standards. Ethical standards and code of conduct. Ethical standards and code of conduct. Ethical standards and code of conduct. Ethical standards and code of conduct is a corporate governance consideration by a company prior to listing at the Securities Exchange. Now, candidates, a strong corporate governance framework promotes ethical behavior and sets a clear code of conduct for directors, management, and also employees. So the company should establish policies and procedures that promote integrity, accountability, and compliance with relevant laws and regulations. So these are 5 corporate governance considerations by a company prior to listing at the Securities Exchange. The first consideration is board composition and independence. Number 2, financial transparency and reporting. Number 3, risk management, internal controls. Number 4 is shareholder rights and protection. And lastly, ethical standards and code of conduct, 5 marks. So we've answered the December 2022 question 1. The subject is meetings, compliance, and administration. In our next lesson, we are going to answer question number 2. I encourage you to attempt question 2 before attending the next lesson. Thank you. God bless you. Bye-bye.